Hi, my name is Robin and I am the founder and designer at Parallel Labs. This today's webinar is on material design. To talk about what material design really is and how you can approach designing the user experience for your app in the right way to create a distinct brand experience and not just copy all the guidelines. So let's get started with it. And the first thing that we talk about here is that why do we need material design? There's already people that are designing great stuff. Why does Google need to come up and create a guideline which enforces so many things on designers on how do you do about certain things? So let's talk about that first. So so the first reason why it is needed is for a consistency of experience across platforms. So whether it's having a web experience or whether it's having an Android experience, whether it's something to do with wearables, cars, and many other experiences, they're all different. Used to be before material design, they will be good. So the user has to get used to different kinds of experience on different platforms, which is very painful. So the first reason why I needed is to bring in a consistency across all different kinds of platforms, whether it's web, mobile, cars, TV, wearables, mobile phones, etc. The second thing is that there's a lot of trend happening in the last few years towards moving away from skeuomorphic layouts towards using flat kind of layouts. So Windows did it in 2011 and iOS did it, but it was kind of getting boring. So some people used to love skeuomorphic design, some people used to love flat. There were some things missing here and there was something missing there. So Google came up with a material design guidance where it is not as skeuomorphic as Apple would have, but still it has the third dimension or that kind of feeling of real life world. So that is what material design brings in. So there are three key principles of material design. The first one is material, the metaphor that is on which it's based on. The second point is being bold, graphic, and intentional. The third point is motion provides a meaning. So the first point is material. So Google uses the concept of the material of paper and ink, having different layers of materials which are uh, tied one above each other to give it that element of the third dimension of the z-axis, to give it that height and elevation and bring in a lot of possibilities of layout and interactions with that. So the first point is that concept of material. The second point is being bold, graphic, intentional. So what was happening with this flat design and this minimalism trend, all the interfaces started to look very similar. They were losing their brand feel and impact on their product by just trying to be minimal. So what material design says is don't do that. Be bold, use bold colors, vibrance, use big graphics, use interesting typography, use good iconography, use custom illustrations, don't use stock images. So those kind of things are there and which make you and recommend you to be bold, graphic, and intentional. That's the second principle. The third principle is motion provides a meaning, which says that don't do interactions just for the sake of it. Do interactions which convey something. I press something and something moves from one place to the other. This is a kind of an example of interactions which really provide meaning, the meaningful. So material design facilitates with this concept of having layers and things like that. There's a lot of possibilities for doing interesting interactions and animations. So that's the third principle. Now we jump to what are the key takeaways for the session. So the first point that is very important while you're doing material is don't follow the guidelines blindly. You make conscious choices based on the purpose, audience of your app, what works someone will not work for you. You need to look at all the guidelines. They're very well thought of, they're very detailed and work in most of the cases, but some specific thing will work for you which is not work. Maybe a floating action button or something from the guidance works perfectly for you, but not all other things. So take what you want, if not, and you can innovate on other things depending on the purpose and audience of your application. The second thing is prioritize experience over conventions. So if there are certain conventions mentioned in the guidelines of doing certain things certain way, but it's not working for your app, and it is very much possible. There are like different kinds of experiences possible, and certain set of guidelines cannot possibly cover every possible permutation combination of an experience. So if there is something needed to make your experience better, do that and you can break some convention for the sake of it. The third important point is getting developers on board. Doing a great material design is like just half the battle won. To get a really good experience out, you need to get the development team on board and make sure that they are as interested in creating a great experience as a designer would, because ultimately implementing key elements of material design like interactions, animations, and things like that are really design sensitive things, and developers really need to get to pay attention to those things. So make sure the developers on your team are on board. And don't use the default color palette, standard iconography, and things like that. Take the elements from your brand identity, whether it's something to do with the kind of images you use, certain illustrations, certain style that you have in your brand guidance. Take it forward to your product. Don't just make it just another app by following guidelines blindly. Make a statement with your branding. Express your brand, again a similar point where if your brand guidelines have some specific typefaces, certain kind of look and feel, bring that to your application and not just follow standard color palettes and stock images and stuff like that. The final point here is that material design is a very different kind of visual language which leaves a lot of possibilities to do a lot of fun things, interactions, transitions, being bold and creative. So it's a good opportunity to involve the entire team in the process and really enjoy the exercise. It's not something which is boring. So use the advantage of the exercise being fun to bring on board multiple people, come up with different ideas, and do a great experience. So that's all key takeaways we have, and this is a brief summary of today's webinar. Thank you.